Hey everyone, I'm Hiro. Welcome back to the CISA exam prep series. Today, we are covering Chapter 2, Section 5, Enterprise Risk Management, or ERM. Now, let me start with a quick question. Imagine you work at a company. The IT department tracks IT risks. The financial team tracks financial risks. The legal team tracks legal risks. Sounds organized, right? But here's the problem. What happens when a cyber attack hits? It's not just an IT problem. You suddenly have legal liability. You have customers losing trust. You have the CFO calling about financial losses. That one event touches every department. This is exactly why department-level risk management breaks down. On the left side, you can see the siloed approach. Each department keeps its own risk list. The gaps between departments go unnoticed. And IT risks can threaten the entire organization, not just the IT team. On the right, that's ERM. Organization-wide, integrated. All risk types covered. And the yellow note at the bottom is important. Modern organizations depend completely on IT. If your systems go down, business stops. If you get hit by a cyber attack, the company's survival is at risk. That's why IT risks sit at the very center of ERM. The structure of risk. Now, let's look at how risk actually works. Risk has a clear structure. It always starts with a threat. A threat is an external danger, something out there that could cause harm. Cyber attacks and natural disasters are classic examples. But a threat alone doesn't automatically cause damage. It needs something to exploit. That's the vulnerability, an internal weakness inside the organization. No security controls, lack of staff training, outdated systems. These are vulnerabilities. Risk occurs when a threat exploits a vulnerability. That's the key mechanic. Here's a simple example. Imagine a hacker trying to break into a system. That's the threat. If your passwords are all password123, that's a vulnerability. When the hacker exploits that weak password, that's when risk becomes reality. Now, how do you measure how serious a risk is? Look at the bottom row. It's a formula. Probability times impact equals risk magnitude. Probability is how likely the threat is to exploit the vulnerability. Impact is how much damage it causes. Financial loss, business disruption, reputational damage. Multiply them together and you get the size of the risk. Risk appetite and residual risk. Two more important concepts before we get to the fun part. First, risk appetite. Risk appetite is the level of risk an organization is willing to accept. Here's the interesting thing. It's completely different depending on who you are. A startup wants to move fast and grow quickly. They accept a relatively high level of risk because speed matters more than safety right now. A bank, on the other hand, is heavily regulated. One security incident can cost them their operating license, so they keep risk as low as possible. Neither is wrong. They just have different risk appetites. Now, residual risk. Residual risk is the risk that remains after you've applied your controls. And this is important. Residual risk never reaches zero. Perfect security doesn't exist. You can lock every door, install every firewall, train every employee, and there will still be some risk left over. So what do you do with residual risk? You compare it against your risk appetite. If residual risk is greater than risk appetite, your controls aren't strong enough. You need to add more. If residual risk is less than risk appetite, you might actually be over-controlling. you're spending too much on security for the level of risk involved. There's room to reduce cost. This comparison, residual risk versus risk appetite, is exactly what an IS auditor checks. 4 risk response strategies. This is one of the most important slides in section 5. 4 risk response strategies. First, avoidance. You eliminate the cause entirely. The risk disappears because you remove the activity that created it. The example on the slide is banning USB drives. No USB drives means zero risk of USB-based malware infections. Simple and effective. The downside is that you also lose the convenience. Sometimes avoiding a risk means giving up a business opportunity too. Second, mitigation. This is the most common strategy. Mitigation means you reduce the probability or the impact using controls. You don't eliminate the risk. You bring it down to an acceptable level. Installing anti-malware software, applying patches regularly. Third, transfer. You share the risk with someone else. Cyber insurance is the classic example. If you get attacked, the insurer covers part of the loss. Outsourcing your data center operations also transfers some of the operational risk to the vendor. You still have some exposure, but you are not carrying it alone. Fourth, acceptance. You formally acknowledge the risk and decide to live with it while monitoring it. This is chosen when the cost of responding would be higher than the impact of the risk itself. The BYOD example on the slide is good. Let employees use their personal phones for work email. There's a data leakage risk, but the productivity gains are worth it. So you accept the risk, write a security policy, and watch it carefully. And the dark box at the bottom. Ignoring a risk is not the same as accepting it. Ignoring means you see the risk and do nothing. Acceptance means you formally document it, understand the potential impact, and commit to monitoring it. For a CISA auditor, a risk being ignored is a red flag. Let's wrap up. ERM is cross-department, organization-wide risk management. It's the upgrade from siloed department-by-department approaches. Risk equals threat times vulnerability, and the size of that risk is measured as probability times impact. Remember both formulas. Residual risk is what's left after controls. If it's above your risk appetite, add more controls. If it's below, consider reducing cost. That comparison drives auditing decisions. For response strategies, avoidance removes the cause. Mitigation reduces the risk with controls. And this is the most common one. Transfer shares it through insurance or outsourcing. Acceptance formally acknowledges it and monitors it. Ignoring is not the same as accepting. Alright, that's it for section 5. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.